proper grounding for this installation is as follows. Install 2 ground rods at the breaker panel in the basement with the water meter. This will provide a good ground for the electrical system and help to protect against electrical shocks. Install 1 ground rod at each of the other 3 breaker panels. This will provide a good ground for the electrical system in each of the units and help to protect against electrical shocks. In total, you will need to install 5 ground rods for this installation. To elaborate on this, we need to consider the National Electrical Code, specifically Article 250, which covers grounding and bonding. Grounding is a critical safety measure that provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. This allows overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, to quickly trip and interrupt the flow of electricity during a fault, minimizing the risk of electrical shock or fire. Firstly, let's discuss the purpose of ground rods. Ground rods, typically made of copper or copper-clad steel, are driven into the earth to establish a connection to the earth. This connection serves as a reference point for the electrical system, helping to stabilize voltage and provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. Secondly, the main panel, the one located in the basement with the water meter, serves as the primary grounding point for the entire electrical system. Installing 2 ground rods at this location ensures a robust connection to earth, providing a reliable path for fault current. The NEC typically requires a minimum of 1 ground rod, but 2 are often recommended to ensure a low resistance connection. The distance between the ground rods should be at least the length of the rod itself, typically 8 feet, to ensure that they are tapping into different areas of the earth. Thirdly, the other 3 breaker panels, 1 in each of the other basements, also need to be grounded. Installing 1 ground rod at each of these panels provides a local ground for the electrical system in each unit. This helps to ensure that any fault current in these units has a direct path to ground, minimizing the risk of electrical shock. It is important to note that the ground rods should be bonded together with a grounding electrode conductor, typically a copper wire of appropriate size. This conductor connects the ground rods at each panel to the main panel, creating a continuous grounding system throughout the building. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.66. Fourthly, in addition to the ground rods, the water meter itself should also be bonded to the grounding system. This is typically done by connecting a bonding jumper, a short length of copper wire, from the water pipe to the grounding electrode conductor. This helps to ensure that the water pipe, which is often in contact with the earth, does not become energized during a fault. The size of the bonding jumper is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.102 cone. Fifthly, it is crucial to use the correct size and type of grounding electrode conductors and bonding jumpers. The NEC specifies the minimum size of these conductors based on the size of the service entrance conductors. Using undersized conductors can result in a high impedance ground path, which can increase the risk of electrical shock. Sixthly, all connections to ground rods and water pipes must be made with approved connectors and methods. The NEC specifies the types of connectors that are approved for use in grounding and bonding applications. These connectors must be properly installed to ensure a reliable connection. Seventhly, it is important to inspect the grounding system periodically to ensure that it is in good condition. Ground rods can corrode over time and connections can loosen. Inspecting the grounding system at least once a year can help to identify and correct any problems before they become a safety hazard. Eighthly, it is recommended to use a ground resistance tester to measure the resistance of the grounding system. The NEC does not specify a maximum ground resistance value for residential systems, but a resistance of 25 ohms or less is generally considered acceptable. If the ground resistance is too high, it may be necessary to install additional ground rods or improve the connection to the existing ground rods. Ninthly, ensure that all electrical work is performed by a qualified electrician. Grounding and bonding are critical safety measures, and it is important to have a qualified electrician perform the work to ensure that it is done correctly. Incorrect grounding can create a serious safety hazard. Tenthly, when driving ground rods, be mindful of underground utilities. Call 811 before you dig to locate any underground utilities in the area. This will help to prevent damage to the utilities and ensure your safety. In summary, the proper grounding for this 4-family apartment building involves installing 2 ground rods at the main panel in the basement with the water meter, installing 1 ground rod at each of the other 3 breaker panels, bonding the water meter to the grounding system, and using the correct size and type of grounding electrode conductors and bonding jumpers. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure the safety of the electrical system and protect against electrical shocks. Let's dive deeper into some specific aspects of grounding and bonding. The grounding electrode system is the foundation of electrical safety. It connects the electrical system to the earth, providing a stable reference point and a low impedance path for fault current. The components of a grounding electrode system typically include ground rods, grounding electrode conductors, and bonding jumpers. Ground rods are typically 8 feet long and are made of copper or copper-clad steel. They are driven into the earth to establish a connection to the earth. The NEC requires a minimum of 1 ground rod, but 2 are often recommended to ensure a low resistance connection. The grounding electrode conductor connects the ground rods to the main panel. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.66. Bonding jumpers are used to connect metallic components of the electrical system to the grounding electrode system. This helps to ensure that all metallic components are at the same potential, minimizing the risk of electrical shock. The size of the bonding jumpers is determined by the size of the circuit conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.102 colon. Now let's discuss the importance of bonding. Bonding is the process of connecting all metallic components of the electrical system to the grounding electrode system. This includes metal water pipes, gas pipes, metal conduits, and metal enclosures. Bonding helps to ensure that all metallic components are at the same potential, minimizing the risk of electrical shock. If a fault occurs in the electrical system, fault current will flow through the grounding electrode system back to the source. If the metallic components are not properly bonded, they can become energized, creating a shock hazard. For example, if a wire inside a metal conduit comes loose and touches the conduit will become energized. If someone touches the energized conduit, they could receive a shock. However, if the conduit is properly bonded to the grounding electrode system, the fault current will flow through the grounding electrode system back to the source, tripping the circuit breaker and energizing the conduit. In addition to bonding metallic components, it is also important to bond non-metallic components that are likely to become energized. This includes plastic water pipes and plastic gas pipes. Non-metallic components can become energized if they come into contact with energized metal component. For example, if a plastic water pipe comes into contact with an energized metal conduit, the water in the pipe can become energized. If someone touches the energized water, they could receive a shock. To prevent this, non-metallic component should be bonded to the grounding electrode system. This can be done by connecting a bonding jumper from the non-metallic component to the grounding electrode system. Let's move on to the topic of ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs. GFCIs are devices that are designed to protect people from electrical shock. They work by monitoring the current flowing through a circuit. If the current flowing through the circuit differs from the current returning to the circuit by more than a few milliamperes, the GFCI will trip, interrupting the flow of electricity. GFCIs are required in many locations, including bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor areas. They are also recommended in other locations where there is a risk of electrical shock. GFCIs are particularly important in areas where there is water present. Water is a good conductor of electricity, and it can increase the risk of electrical shock. GFCIs can help to protect people from electrical shock in these areas. There are 2 types of GFCIs: receptacle type GFCIs and circuit breaker type GFCIs. Receptacle type GFCIs are installed in place of standard electrical outlets. Circuit breaker type GFCIs are installed in the breaker panel. Both types of GFCIs provide the same level of protection. When installing GFCIs, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. GFCIs must be properly wired in order to function correctly. It is also important to test GFCIs regularly to ensure that they are working properly. GFCIs can be tested by pressing the test button on the device. If the GFCI trips, it is working properly. If the GFCI does not trip, it should be replaced. Now let's discuss surge protection. Surge protection devices, or SPDs, are designed to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges. Voltage surges are sudden increases in voltage that can damage or destroy electrical equipment. Voltage surges can be caused by lightning, power outages, or other electrical disturbances. SPD work by diverting the surge current to ground, protecting the electrical equipment from damage. SPD are available in a variety of types and sizes. They can be installed at the service entrance, at the breaker panel, or at individual electrical outlets. When selecting an SPD, it is important to choose one that is appropriate for the application. The SPD should be rated to handle the expected surge current. It is also important to choose an SPD that is compatible with the electrical system. When installing an SPD, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. SPD must be properly wired in order to function correctly. It is also important to inspect SPD regularly to ensure that they are working properly. SPD can be damaged by voltage surges. If the SPD has been damaged, it should be replaced. In addition to SPD, there are other steps that can be taken to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges. These steps include unplugging electrical equipment during thunderstorms, using surge-protected power strips, and installing a whole-house surge protector. By taking these steps, you can help to protect your electrical equipment from damage caused by voltage surges. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. By following the guidelines outlined in the NEC and taking other safety precautions, you can help to protect yourself and your family from electrical shock. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge and experience to perform electrical work safely and correctly. They can also help you to identify and correct any electrical hazards in your home. By hiring a qualified electrician, you can ensure that your electrical system is safe and up to code. In addition to the points already discussed, it's worth mentioning the importance of maintaining accurate and up-to-date electrical diagrams for the building. These diagrams should clearly indicate the location of all electrical panels, grounding points, and major circuits. Having these diagrams readily available can be invaluable for troubleshooting electrical problems, performing maintenance, and ensuring that any future electrical work is done safely and correctly. Furthermore, it's a good practice to label all electrical panels and circuits clearly. This makes it easier to identify the correct circuit breaker when you need to turn off power to a specific area or appliance. Clear labeling can also help prevent accidental disconnections or reconnections, which can be dangerous. When working with electricity, always remember to energize the circuit before starting any work. Use a voltage tester to confirm that the circuit is indeed energized. Never assume that a circuit is off just because the switch is in the off position. Finally, it's important to stay informed about the latest electrical codes and safety practices. The electrical industry is constantly evolving, and new technologies and regulations are being introduced all the time. By staying up to date, you can ensure that your electrical system is safe, efficient, and compliant with all applicable codes. Consulting with a qualified electrician or attending electrical safety seminars are great ways to stay informed. Considering the geographical location in northern New Jersey, it's also important to be aware of any specific local electrical codes or regulations that may apply. Some municipalities may have additional requirements beyond the National Electrical Code, so it's always a good idea to check with the local building department or a qualified electrician to ensure compliance. In addition to the practical aspects of grounding and bonding, it's also helpful to understand the underlying principles of electricity. Electricity is the flow of electrons through a conductor. Voltage is the electrical potential difference between 2 points. Current is the rate of flow of electrons. Resistance is the opposition to the flow of electrons. Ohm's law states that voltage is equal to current multiplied by resistance, or volts equals amps times ohms. Understanding these basic principles can help you to better understand how electrical systems work and how to troubleshoot electrical problems. For example, if you know that a circuit has a high resistance, you can deduce that the current will be low, even if the voltage is high. This can help you to identify the source of the problem. Electricity always seeks the path of least resistance to return to its source. Grounding provides a low resistance path, ensuring that in case of a fault, electricity flows safely back to the source, tripping the breaker. This prevents the electricity from flowing through a person, which would cause an electrical shock. One of the most important safety rules to follow when working with electricity is to never work on a live circuit. Always to energize the circuit before starting any work. This can be done by turning off the circuit breaker that controls the circuit. Once the circuit is de-energized, use a voltage tester to confirm that the circuit is indeed off. Never assume that a circuit is off just because the switch is in the off position. Also, remember to wear appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, when working with electricity. This includes safety glasses, gloves, and insulated tools. Safety glasses will protect your eyes from sparks and debris. Gloves will protect your hands from electrical shock. Insulated tools will prevent you from accidentally completing a circuit. Moreover, always work in a well-lit area. Good lighting will help you to see what you are doing and avoid mistakes. Furthermore, keep your work area clean and free of clutter. Clutter can create tripping hazards and make it difficult to work safely. It's also essential to avoid working with electricity when you are tired or distracted. Fatigue and distractions can impair your judgment and increase the risk of accidents. Lastly, if you're ever unsure about something, don't hesitate to ask for help. It is better to be safe than sorry when it comes to electricity. By following these safety tips, you can minimize the risk of accidents and ensure that you are working safely with electricity.